Welcome to the Mercy University podcast. We're here with Aaron Needham.
What's
Aaron is our night and weekend manager. Much more than that as well, but that's a good start. Aaron, what's your life story? Where'd you grow up?
I grew up in Cleveland, Ohio, actually. I'm not from the area.
You're not from New York?
No.
Neither am I.
Wow.
Tell me about your deepest, darkest fears from your childhood.
Deepest, darkest fears. Wow, that's,
How did you get started with music? Did you play first, or was like the technology like more?
I played instruments in school. So I started on piano when I was younger, never really took lessons very seriously, but then getting into middle and high school, I played the cello.
Oh.
And that I took a lot more seriously.
Wow.
I took lessons for, I went to competitions for, and I was really into it, but it was never anything that I wanted to take into a career. It was just like
what about it didn't you like? You just what about it?
I knew that I didn't have the discipline to take it to the next step. Is
Okay.
really what it was. Yeah, the ability to practice every day was not in my genes. Yeah.
Interesting. Okay.
So I enjoyed it, and I especially enjoyed. I was a section leader for that, as well as in choir, because I could read music and play piano a little bit. I was able to teach other people the parts. And so I enjoyed kind of not necessarily the leadership aspect, but the like collaboration aspect between it. And so
I'm not going to let you gloss over your choir. I'm not going to let you gloss over that. You were in choir?
I was in choir. I was
Were you a tenor? Were you?
I was a tenor.
Mhm.
I don't know that I actually have a tenor range, but I was one of the few that could kind of get up there. So I was
in choir too. No one thinks that, but I was in choir too. But it was great. It was amazing.
My introduction into audio was actually more through theater. I grew up around the theater. I have family that works in the theater, and being in that space, I would get to see engineers do their thing. I never got into audio through theater though, because I was always helping with lighting or set design. There was always someone else doing it. So I actually got into audio through film. I started volunteering with a local film crew in the Cleveland area, and I would do some boom op work for them.
Amazing.
And that sort of got me into I really like the audio world.
What kind of stuff were they making, that crew?
The coolest thing that we were working on is that we did a lot of 24-hour film festivals. Okay. So actually 48 hours. So we would
That's double.
we had twice as much time. It was wonderful. But essentially at the beginning of the time, we could only scout out locations and get crew and equipment together, but we couldn't write the film. We couldn't have too much on standby, and then we would get a prompt as well as a few curveballs so they know that we couldn't prepare ahead of time. And then we had 48 hours to write, shoot, and edit a film. And so we did all the major cities in the area that we could. So we did Cleveland, Cincinnati, Columbus.
I've never really heard of this. So explain how this works. Is there an organization giving you these prompts, and there's other teams?
Yeah, there's a 48-hour film festival organization. Okay. And they go to all major cities and host these festivals, and then they take the winners and they put them up in a national and an international competition. And there's, it's a really fun thing, as well as it's just a great learning experience as well too.
It's yearly, it seems like, or
it's yearly.
Okay,
yes,
that's amazing.
So I did that, and we did a few commercials for the local area. So I did one with the Ohio Lottery, which was pretty fun. We rented out a auditorium at Cleveland State. And
is that when your gambling addiction started?
Probably, yeah. We put a skee ball machine in the middle of this auditorium, basically turned off all the lights, filled it up with fog, and then just kind of made this mock arena competition for a film. And it was one of the cooler experiences I got to do.
That's awesome. So it's lighting, sound, directing. That's like all these different.
Yeah. I got to pretty much help with everything. By the time I had graduated from high school, before I came here, I was working as a production assistant for them, and I was really just filling in any spots that they had.
Was that a paid position after?
Yes.
It was.
Yes, it did move into a paid position. So.
Incredible.
And I still sometimes do work with them if they're ever in town, or I go back to Cleveland and I have free time. So, yeah.
Amazing. So paid, tech work before you even went to university or college. That's kind of incredible.
It was fun.
Yeah. And did you have any music in high school, like as far as like classes or of the choir and band, I guess?
Choir and band were my only introduction into it. Yeah. There was a music production class at my school. They would go up and use GarageBand in one of our labs, but I never had the time to take it.
Interesting.
And frankly, was not interested in it at that point.
Yeah.
So, yeah.
That's amazing.
Yeah.
So you're not recording at home. You're not really like making music at home at that time?
From an engineer that I had crossed paths with in theater, I had downloaded Tracked in Waveform, which I'm sure you've heard of.
I don't even know
it's
it.
Everywhere, as everybody knows. And
should I know it?
No, you should
okay,
not.
okay.
No.
I was like,
I do think there's a few smaller podcast gigs that I've done where I've used that as my suggested DAW for them to record with.
Okay.
Because I still know how to set up an audio interface in it.
Amazing.
And there is a free version to get into it that is a little bit more accessible than Pro Tools is.
I only like completely inaccessible DAWs.
Exactly.
Really expensive, inaccessible DAWs.
But I downloaded that and I used it for my audition here, and that's about it. Yeah.
Amazing. Incredible. Are we glossing over anything from that time or should we move it to like?
I think let's move forward.
So moving forward, you go to music school.
Yes.
Did you start here or did you transfer here?
I started
here. You did start here.
I was torn between Full Sail in a few places, and then I took a tour here over spring break. And you had a student worker that was setting up, maybe even your manager at the time was setting up a session for you. You weren't here, but I was able to get into the studios and see some sort of session.
Me have my assistant set up a session for me?
I saw some sort of session being set up for you, and
do you know
being in the space. It was,
do you remember who?
No, that was so long ago.
What year was it?
I really wish I knew.
What year it was?
That would have been, I probably would have taken the tour in spring of 2019.
So you got the tour.
Mm-hmm.
I wasn't here. Sorry.
Correct. Yeah.
I'm always spring break. I'm gonna be here this spring break.
Great.
I have some
cool.
sessions.
I'll take another tour.
I have some sessions you can set up for. Okay, and so you got a tour, and so 2019. So our studios were built. Okay, so these studios were built. For the listener, we built these studios in the end of 2015. We built these studios, and they were kind of operational by January of 2016. So you got the tour, and you were looking at a couple other schools.
Yeah,
that's cool that you chose here. You know, that's not that's it's not like we're obviously this is a Mercy podcast, but I'm not trying to do like such a hard sell. But
I regret it every day.
Yeah. So you start, but talk to me about the process of like why this felt right, because you weren't a musician. You weren't making. Yeah, talk to me about that process.
I wasn't working in audio. That was kind of going into school was my main deliberation. Is I was not disciplined enough in any instrument to go to a school that required me to major in it.
Okay.
As well as I did not have a lot of experience in audio, so I was not very comfortable with it, and I didn't know where in the field I wanted to go.
Okay.
I was pretty sure I wanted to go into live sound, like that was my image of it, because that's the only thing I'd been exposed to outside of film. And I got here, and even taking the live sound classes, doing live sound, I realized that's not even the part I like.
Oh yeah.
So I've honestly strayed away from my original intentions here and found different things I like. But walking through the studios, I was at the time very intimidated because Full Sail, I had known a staff member there, which was kind of my way in. And the program there is very intense.
Yeah.
And they pretty much say, like, you have no time to think or sleep or eat. You just learn it, and by the time you're done, you should have a career.
Okay.
And I was not ready for that yet. I needed some space to explore and grow. Yeah. And seeing the spaces here and how much access students were having, as well as the variety that was being taught here, is especially as a way for you to explore it rather than you take a specific path, like I'm going to be on the live sound path and there's no way to deviate from that besides starting over. Like here, we gradually work into it and then you pick and select as you see fit. So I was more the openness of the program.
Yeah. That's such a tricky thing because what if you don't like live sound? What if you don't like audio for video? What if you don't like
exactly
sports sound? Whatever it is. What if you don't like video games?
Yeah, that's what happened to me too. Is I started doing some live sound gigs after I started here, and just immediately felt like this is not the stuff that excites me. I'm don't love events in general. I love to stay home, be in more intimate and introverty sessions. So
that's making sense. But I think that's also like the beauty of something like this program is that you can explore these other options.
I agree.
And maybe like I've had some students fall in love with like acoustics, you know, or whatever. Obviously, video game sound. Making records is obviously a big one, and live sound's a big one. But there's all these other small areas of the industry that you can kind of explore. So you attend Mercy.
Correct.
And then your second year is COVID, right?
No, my first year.
Year?
Yeah, I started in fall 2019.
Oh, okay.
And so my second semester was COVID. And that meant that my whole second year was back and forth between online and like campus being totally shut down. Yeah.
So, okay. We can cut this out if it becomes weird.
Yeah.
Why did you stay in school during COVID?
Honestly,
I don't even know. Like, we can seriously cut this out if it's weird. But like,
I mean, honestly, it's partially there was nothing to do during COVID.
That's fair,
and
that's totally fair.
That first semester, I had just enough money saved up that when we were all told to go home and that our classes were online, I just decided, you know what, I'm gonna invest in some audio setup for myself. So I bought a nice computer, my first like actual audio interface.
Okay. What'd you get?
I got a Audio Fuse Studio.
I don't know what that is either.
I know. I didn't really either.
I promise I know this stuff.
Yeah. It's from Arturia. It's
cool.
their 4-channel audio face at the time.
You still have it?
I do. It barely works.
Okay.
Yeah.
So you bought that.
I bought that as well as I bought Contact, and that was pretty much like where I started.
Okay.
Yeah.
And
then by that point, I was financially invested, so that kept me here.
So did you find that it? I mean, maybe it spoke to your workflow that you could work via Zoom and email and collaboration. Did it not? Maybe it wasn't.
I think it helped and hurt in some ways. It helped because I realized there was a lot I could do on my own.
Okay.
And I was a lot more creative during that time when I had nothing else to do.
Yeah.
But at the same time, I really never got comfortable with being creative in other spaces. So
I see.
I bought a desktop so I couldn't travel with it.
Yes.
And it's still an issue today. And I also bought all these software instruments so that I was like locked into my own ecosystem. So anytime I go somewhere, I'm not in my comfort place with all of my equipment and my organization, my setup. And so I find it harder to get into that headspace in other places now. Yeah.
What are some of the standout libraries that you bought that you liked?
Back then, almost nothing.
Okay.
I used everything that I was using here for the most part up in the lab. So I loved like using the Grandor on everything. It was on every track for whatever reason. And then like I was using the session strings on quite a few things.
So just for the other students that might be listening, we have the whole complete Contact suite.
Yes.
You know, so everything in there we have. So you bought like individual libraries?
No, I bought the collector's edition because I just dropped the big dollars and somehow I've kept locking myself into that. And it was really fun because I loved having more than I could handle to explore. I mean, I was locked in a room for the better part of the year.
Literally, I've had Contact for, I was the one that bought it for the school. I don't even remember when, but there's still sounds I was finding today, new sounds.
I could open up now and tell you something that I've never played probably.
Yeah. No, I think it's such, like when I give tours and I say, you can score a film, but you can literally score a film from the labs upstairs because the libraries are amazing. Sure. Yes, we have Spitfire and Omnisphere and all the East-West stuff.
It's not like I won't still buy all that stuff.
Yeah, but Contact, they're complete. Sorry.
If anyone had us, like, needed a recommendation for an entry level, I like buying Contacts and some of Native Instruments libraries is wonderful, especially having the player. You can use third-party libraries and other instruments that other people make for free too.
Yeah.
So there's a lot of options that open up with that.
And are you starting to make your own music at that point?
I did. I explored with it for a little bit. I didn't quite find my footing there.
Okay.
I was for a moment when I was not getting as much into live sound, I was like, maybe I'll be a singer-songwriter. And that just like,
I didn't know that.
Yeah, well, there's a reason why. And I did a few things, had a few heartbreaks and stuff that I was like, okay, cool, maybe this will help start my music career.
We're gonna play these songs now. No.
Oh wow.
No.
And yeah, that's.
I'm sure they were I'm sure they were great. Honestly, I've heard your stuff. I haven't heard you sing, but I'm sure it's great.
Yeah, but later down the line, that came back up when I was taking the underscore classes and things like that, because I liked the music creation, but I was just not a singer-songwriter.
Right.
And I really liked being able to, it still comes back to this collaboration aspect. I loved being able to work off of other people. And the underscore project having someone else's vision that I'm trying to portray made it a lot more interesting, and it felt a lot more intimate. Yeah.
Yeah, that's when I became, I knew who you were, but really aware of your stuff was, I think, those senior projects. Or maybe it was the underscore class.
Maybe.
The score you did for that animation.
No, that was senior project.
That was senior project. Okay.
That was senior project.
Which I was just like, this is very high level stuff. It's not like this was a student project. This was like professional grade film score, beautiful work, and I was blown away. It was really, it's still great. We should put it on right now. And so, so you come back from COVID, you're in college again.
Yeah.
Anything exciting about the last couple of years of that, or?
I hadn't really been in the studios all that much. So I started out my freshman year, and there was another student who ended up dropping out around COVID just because a lot of people did, frankly. And before COVID happened, he and I were in Studio D almost every week trying to write together and do stuff together, just so we could learn the studios. That's how I learned Pro Tools, was just simply, it was like, I want to write, do you want to record? And we got in there and started working together. But after COVID hit, I really stopped coming to the studios, especially because there was that period of time where I really wanted to get into writing, and I was struggling to bring it back into the studios, back into the labs.
Because you had your home setup that you were comfortable with?
I had my home setup.
Yeah.
But then when junior year came around, and I was taking workshop, and we were actually in person again, full time. Yeah. We were on and off for a while, but being here full time made me really want to experiment and start. So I started just trying to look up different techniques and different session setups, and would just bring in people solely for the chance of experimenting, seeing how we use certain pieces of equipment. I still. It still comes up here and there, a photo that I have of the 18 mic piano.
I was just going to bring that up. Yeah, that's a pretty famous one from the program.
And that was right when we got it too. We got the piano, I think 2020, 2021.
Something. I don't remember.
It really hadn't even been used. I remember talking to a few professors here because I wanted to record it for one of my projects. And they were like, here's in general our upright techniques that we know, but we've never used that piano, so we don't really know what to do. And they were like, and I believe it was Noble that told me, he's like, just put up a bunch of mics and try everything. And so I maybe took that too to heart, but it was
I think I remember either walking in and seeing that or just
it took me an hour to clean up. It was wonderful.
Yeah. And what did you end up liking on the piano? What's your go-to secrets?
Honestly, from that, almost nothing. I spent too long just looking up everything and setting things up without actually using my ears.
Yeah.
And that, I walked away from that realizing I'm like, wow, none of this sounds great. It was
interesting.
There were a few things I was like, I could use that, but I would rather have just set up a few different things and put on headphones and move things around and listen. And so that's the next thing I did. Is I did 2 or 3 setups. I did over top, just 2 small diaphragm condensers. I had 2 like 414s on the faceplate with the faceplate off.
Yeah.
And then I think I had one or 2 mics, like 57s or something on the back.
Okay.
And I knew that those were 3 very common techniques.
Yes.
And so I put on headphones, I got mics all set up, and I just spent a while playing, adjusting, and then with the hearback, just swapping which mics I was listening to and sort of figuring out what I want. And truth is, it depends on what you're recording and what sounds great. But I do really like how the piano in here sounds. And,
I love the piano.
And taking the faceplate off, and I mean, now I would use 87s, but but like what 103s on the face
pretty good.
Are pretty wonderful, especially if you're using felt and can get really close to the hammers and hear the like clicking of it too. Is so
my favorite is with the front off. I like 414s on the front. Obviously 87s will be great. 4050s will be great, but where you put them is going to be more important.
Yeah. And it depends on I've realized now every single song, it depends on too, because depending on where you're playing, the sound's coming from different places. So oftentimes if I'm playing, I'm putting on headphones and I'm adjusting where my stereo image is.
Nice.
Yeah.
And then like for some peaks, we've had to mic it from behind. And I always get like, I'm like, oh no, we got to mic it from behind because I think that's bad. And then we hear it and it's like perfect. It's fine.
Great.
Yeah, it's great. Yeah. So like, I think it was the Guster peak where we mic'd it from behind because of whatever, just lots of reasons, right? And it was like, it was fine. It was great. Yeah. So, okay. So then you graduate from, we're a college at that point, not a university. Yeah, right? You graduate from college. You have the big piece of paper. What year did you graduate? I don't remember. Do you remember?
Do I? That's hard. Actually, let's see. I started it would have been, so 2020 would have been my spring. So 2020, 2021, 2023.
2023. What year is it now? 2025. Okay. So it's not that long ago. Wow.
Yeah. It feels like it was an age.
Oh my gosh.
Ago. Yeah, for sure.
So 2023, May.
Correct.
And talk to me about like your headspace. I think our students would be really interested to hear about that headspace of, because you're graduating and you're entering the world. So like, what is it? Yeah, what was going through your head at that time?
I mean, so at the time, I'd previously done an internship at a studio in the city.
Okay.
And had been through the studio internship ordeal of realizing, wow, like it takes a lot of work with no pay and expectations to sort of get into places. And I was applying to studios still just to see, but
How long did you intern there for?
I interned there for a summer. They wanted to keep me on, but frankly, it was almost a full-time job for no work, and I still had school. So I left there, and
I'm sure you gained a lot of knowledge and perspective.
Honestly,
from that.
I think that I learned almost more in those 4 months than I had previously in some of my classes here. And then that gave me a lot of tools for my senior year to be able to take advantage of it. Because by that point, I was still too timid around the gear. I did not want to record with anything on it because I didn't want to commit to anything. And they forced me to commit to things early on. It was a great experience. I thought I knew Pro Tools before I went there, and now I feel like I've like truly have gotten in the weeds with it. But I did not want to, both because I couldn't financially afford it, but also I just didn't feel like it was great for my mental health to have to deal with this. Like, I'm doing this with the sole purpose of, they say, eventually I'll get there, or eventually something will be awarded to me. So I had decided I had at least enough saved up that I was going to do a summer of just freelance, trying to build up some clientele on the side so I could see what type of full-time job I could take on. I knew I was going to have to find a actual job at some point, as some would say. But I was, at the time, I was recording some students at Power Station because of a theater composition group that I knew. Okay. And so I was...
Because you were already doing freelance before you graduated.
I was.
Okay.
That's true.
That's key. That's a key piece.
Yeah. You don't start it after you graduate. Right. Okay. But I was trying to see, with not having distractions, not having school and everything else, how far I could take that.
Yeah.
And I very quickly saw that there was work there. There was actually more than I thought I could do, but I still knew I had to find a job at some point. I was applying for studio positions more in the because I needed something that paid starting out. So some management and like almost like janitorial type things,
totally.
because that's where jobs are. And at least there you're exposed. You can kind of prove yourself in other ways and then maybe sidestep to a job that you want. And then I was fortunate enough to get a call, and basically there was a position here that opened up. The timeline there was still a little questionable, but
I'm trying to remember the timeline because
you called me in
2020 July.
Yeah, you called me. I think it was middle of July. I got a call, and then
I'm trying to remember.
Gonna start.
Was it AJ that left?
AJ left. Yeah.
Oh, I remember.
No, he started teaching.
Right.
That's what happened. So
I don't want to spread out how it works behind the scenes, but yeah, he couldn't really do both, right? He couldn't teach and be the part-time person.
So there was a school is starting soon and we need some people.
That's right.
And so I applied for this job, and then it was going to start in August, but then it took a little bit longer. Yeah. But that was honestly nice because I managed to wrap up all the projects I was working on during August. So
that's cool.
It kind of ended up being a win-win in some ways. And then having some sort of job, even without the access to the equipment, I would say the access to the spaces and everything has been really nice. But a lot of the work that I've done has been virtual, or I've traveled for, especially the work that's paid a little bit more.
Right.
And the stuff that I do here is more the things that I enjoy, or the passion stuff, the things that I'm able to take at a lower rate because it's on my home turf, essentially.
Yes. Yeah. Well, and you've been so valuable here with, the Atmos was such a big project that, and some of the video stuff we're doing, the podcast, you came in today. We were supposed to do an interview with somebody else that we got switched around. So you came in and switched it up. But that's amazing. And you're helping run the whole program. Yeah. It's amazing. And you're still working freelance and doing all that.
Yeah. And I guess what I'll say too is that never went away or died down by this job. Exactly.
Yeah, right.
Yeah. This was always meant to be I was probably going to be a waiter somewhere or something that.
Right.
I had applied for DoorDash and all those things to try to see what things look like, because at the end of the day, you still need to pay rent, and that's how that goes. But if anything, every single year, the freelance only builds and builds.
Yeah.
The eventual hope is, that could always take over or something. Right. But, that something regular is also just good for your mind and health as well. So having I have a routine that I have to go through. And it allows you to structure a little easier, because otherwise you have to rely on yourself to do that. And I'm not necessarily great at structuring myself. So this at least provides a base plate of, here are my mercy work days, here are my non-mercy work days. And, sometimes there's a little bleed between, but that's kind of what it is. Yeah.
Do you want to talk about the theater stuff you're doing? Or is that, I don't know if you can talk about any of it.
For sure. Yeah, I can talk about, I can talk about everything.
That could be, just touch on that. I think we're going to wrap up soon, but just touch on the theater stuff. Because just as a job opportunity and what some of that entails.
Well, so I would say I am definitely, and I think everyone should be starting out open to anything. I started working with the understanding that I did not want to do theater. I ended up doing some theater work, and that's how life always goes, I think. But it's also live sound, which is also another thing that I don't enjoy. But I do really like learning. That's one big aspect of it, and I enjoy having food too. But the chance to be able to learn new techniques, to try new things. I'm getting to use all new consoles. mixing live for theater is an entirely different ballgame than anything else that I've done, because I have to have a script myself. I have to follow everybody. Like, I have to program my show based off of the actors and how they're performing, and I have to almost perform along with them. It's more like an instrument than an actual console. So learning how to use DCAs and Dante and all these insane digital things has been both challenging and fun. There are aspects I do and don't like, but I've enjoyed the opportunity to learn and to troubleshoot. And I mean, my world is always changing. So sometimes I'm doing sound design for a show. I'm using QLab and I'm programming sound and video. Using surround speakers. So I'm using fills behind and in front of audiences. And then sometimes I'm just doing voices. So it's a play. There's no music. There's no sound. It's just people on stage talking. And then there's musicals where I have to mix a band and the actors themselves. I am lucky enough that I managed to get the theater I'm working with to buy a headphone system for the band, so I don't have to also do a headphone mix for them, which is great, because we've had 2 shows already that are the band's on stage, which means they need to be on headphones. They can't.
How do the actors hear themselves?
The actors hear themselves because right now those shows are in a black box theater, so there's not a great separation. When they're on the in the main performing arts space, we have monitor wedges on the front. So but those ones, I've been lucky enough; those haven't coincided at the same time, where there's the band and the actors. So I get a lot of control between the two, which is nice.
Nice. Yeah. And are you making any music?
I am actually. Yeah. You know, I still do underscore work. It kind of comes and goes. I just got this morning a request to do a test 15-20 second for a medieval film. So I'm gonna send them a little test score and see what they like, and hopefully that goes somewhere. I think it's not quite feature length, but I know they're going for like 40-50 minutes. So it'd be a long film if I did it. Yeah. And then exciting. Outside of that, I recently just started working with a friend of mine who I've done a lot of underscore work with, actually. She writes for film and theater, but she also just writes a lot of music of her own, and she's been wanting to put that out as an album herself. It's kind of Irish folk music.
That's right, you were talking about that. That's amazing.
And so we've started co-producing some of her songs together, and that's kind of ties into that collaboration aspect of I am a vehicle for her to get things through, but I get to do a lot of the stuff that I like to do, which is virtual programming and arrangement and things like that. And then she gets to help guide those. She oftentimes comes in already with all the melodies and harmonies that she's thinking of. She'll send me Logic sessions where she's sketching things out, and I'm turning that into an arrangement. I'm doing sound design and things like that. And so I've really enjoyed that aspect too. Yeah.
That's incredible. All right, last few things. We got 4 questions from. This is going to be recurring questions. Right? What's a plugin you're into right now? It doesn't have to be favorite of all time or anything, but just what's one that comes to mind right now?
Can I pick not a plugin but like a digital technique instead?
Okay. Yeah.
I've been loving. I tried it a long time ago and I really didn't like it, but recently I've been using a rear bus.
Oh, okay.
And I've been really getting into it. Okay. I didn't think I would like it, but I started using it with the idea of like maybe it would be an easier way to translate things between stereo and Atmos.
Interesting.
So that I could have a rear bus as my fill versus having to have a compressor limiter on everything.
Yeah.
And jury's still out on that, but I really liked the rear bus just in general. So
my buddy Justin Krass used a rear bus a bunch. I think it's like a Michael Brower thing too. And a bunch of people do it.
I learned it from the Sheps mix with the Masters. Yeah. He used it pretty extensively.
Right. Yeah. So what are you sending to your rear bus? I don't use it at all, and I never could get it to work for me.
I am sending everything but drums.
Everything but drums.
And it's a exact match of my main mix.
Okay. And is it smashed? Or are you like, what are you doing to it?
I am
not really.
I'd say half and half. It's definitely like I'm using a Purple Audio 77 from Plugin Alliance, and it is pretty heavy, but it's quick enough that it's not like changing the color too much, and it's still not brought in too much. I mean, the amounts that I'm mixing into is probably like minus 15, minus 20 on the fader. So
yeah, but it's so it's parallel compression.
Yeah, exactly.
It's funny. I don't use a rear bus, but I use parallel compression on the master. So it's like not that dissimilar.
It's
I
not
guess
too dissimilar. I think the difference is I've found that with it, my percussion, my drums are speaking more, and I don't have to throw L2 on my vocal to get it to sit where I want it to, which is what I was doing before.
I hear you. Yeah.
And nothing against it. I still do that.
No. I like to think I use limiters in a slightly different way too, but maybe I don't. I don't know. Okay, good. Nice. I like that. All right. And then same question, but like in regards to like hardware. Any hardware that you're into right now? It could be anything. Microphone, speakers, gear. Could be a microphone, could be a camera.
Camera.
Could be anything.
Oh man, I hate cameras.
You hate cameras?
I've actually, I've been. It's funny because I did just see your interview, but so it's a little bit different.
Well, we're not going to use that one. So.
Yeah, it's fine. It's fine. One interview. That's not a thing. Honestly, the M908.
Yeah.
I've been like, especially because I've been having to dive into it a little bit more as we're talking about the fact that we can do pretty advanced room tuning on it now. And I didn't realize there's actually a way to sync it to the computer, so we can use computer control to create the presets and do things so much more simply. I mean, I can type in the name of something now. It's incredible. Yeah. It's wonderful. But also diving into it and realizing like how usable it is just like a interface it's pretty incredible to see the I/O that it's capable of. I mean, it's almost like it can beat out some of the gear we have here.
Well, they just came out with like did you see the thing they came out with? They came out with it's pretty much that, but it's like
from Grace Designs.
Yeah,
I haven't.
Yeah, and so it's essentially this, but it's so it can be whatever you want because it's a module. So you could do all inputs, all outputs. You can do digital. I didn't really look at it, but we're going to be replacing our Avid interfaces at some point, and I was like, this could be interesting. It could be an interesting option.
It could be an option for sure.
For I/O. Lots of love to Grace, and then you have any? I have two more questions. Mm-hmm. This one's from you. I think you came up with this question. Hot audio take. What do you got for me?
Hot audio take.
Yeah, what do you got?
You're going to hate this.
I probably am.
Probably.
Oh, I am. I am going to hate it. That's right.
Because you know what it is. I didn't go into it, but I have over time, like more and more, I really, really dislike space pair drum overheads.
Podcast over. Get out. No, I'm joking. Okay, walk me through why you don't like it.
I think in my mind, the overheads are sort of like my base plate for whatever my drum image is.
Yeah, me too.
Yeah, wonderful. So I don't know why you like it.
Amazing.
No, I love, I mean, I think a lot of us when we mix, we've got kick and snare center.
Yeah.
And we've got
pretty good idea.
toms on like center left and then you got your low tom all the way on the right and high hat on the left or whatever. I feel like the space pairing does not. First of all, it's got some phase issues that I don't love the sound of. But then also too, I feel like the image, the spatial image especially, is not quite what I love. So I typically prefer. I like going more Glenn Johns if it's something that's like dynamic. So if it's something smaller, I might not even mic up the whole kit, but using a Glenn Johns kind of top side. And then anything that's louder or that's like more like rock drums and that kind of style, I prefer centered over the snare, NOS or ORTF. Mm-hmm. And I just feel like that gives me the sound that I like and the image that I like, because I prefer the other mics are like how I adjust the image, not the bass line to my image. Like if I take out my overheads from a drum mix, I feel like you lose my drums.
No, I think I feel the same way, but I was never, and this is going to be a hot take too, right? And maybe I'm going to get in trouble for this, but the snare drum, yes, it's centered, but I don't mind if it pulls a little bit because it does. It
actually bothers me.
Why is the snare drum the center?
I think it's
why
because,
isn't it? I mean,
a lot of the times, a lot of drummers that I work with, they're almost like centered on the snare.
Yeah.
Especially if you have a drummer who's not performing with the full kit and they've got a smaller kit. I mean, the snare is all the way up.
I think. Yeah, I do try to center. I guess I do center really the kick drum. I'm not going to lie and say I don't do that. I do that. I don't know. It's worth experimenting, and we're going to experiment more with it.
We should. If you see students not using space pair, it's usually because I said, "Why don't you try that?"
Yeah, I think to be totally honest, like X, Y is just like cumbersome a lot of the time. It's just like kind of annoying.
I don't enjoy it that much because I feel like it's almost,
and it doesn't it's safe. It's safe.
It's safe. Do okay. And there is somewhat of an image, but I'd almost rather just one mic over the kit than do that.
Yeah, I mean, even the space pair doesn't get you a super wide image usually.
No, I mean, if you want super wide, Glenn Johns is the way to kind of grab that. But that has other issues in its own right.
I have never really. I mean, I have amazing drum sounds. By the way. I have great. Can't swear. I have great drum sounds.
I can bleep it. You can bleep it. I'm editing it anyway.
Yeah. I have not. Again, I'm just going to sound like I don't know what I'm talking about as an engineer on this whole podcast. But I have not been happy with my Glenn Johns.
Interesting.
Ever. I think if it's a really stripped down thing, cool. But most of my productions are not stripped down.
I think too, if I'm doing something that's my own work or something that I'm inserting a lot of my own color and taste to, drums are typically very dynamic and almost. If I can find a drummer to play quiet, I'm loving my world.
Yeah.
And I think that really speaks with the Glenn Johns technique for sure.
I have loud drums.
I do too.
I have very loud drums.
That is the number one note for every drummer. Is, if you can play quiet, you're amazing. I love it.
Yeah. No, look, I love. There's a couple of drummers coming to mind that are like amazing quiet drummers. Yeah, it's hard. Playing drums quiet is tough.
It's harder.
Yeah,
it's true.
Yeah. Incredible. And then lastly, for our students, here, going before, like, let's say from high school age. Or not even high. Actually, we'll start this over. Not even high school age, but for anyone looking to get into music, because actually, I have older people that hit me up like, oh, I want to start. Or I have friends like, I'm 37, so I have friends who are like, oh, I wish I learned piano. I'm like, you can learn piano now. You can do that. You're allowed to play an instrument whenever. So, what kind of advice would you give somebody that's looking to get into music production?
It really depends on what their interests are. I would say that the first thing is find someone or a friend or someone kind of entry level that's doing the kind of thing that you're interested in, and just ask them if you can hang out. Just kind of go hang out with them and say like, hey, are you so simple, you writing like music like? Do you mind if I just like come, like I'll buy you pizza and bring you a Starbucks, and can I just like sit in a corner and watch you? And also talk to them about what they're using, what they're doing. And I would say if you own a Mac, I mean, GarageBand is amazing to get started. If you're on
PC, get Studio One for free, right? I mean,
there's so many free options out there. I think it becomes really hard when you're starting out and your only reference is the internet because there's so much info out there, and not all of it's great, but there is a lot of really good free options out there for whatever you want to do. And I would say that finding someone who's doing the kind of thing that you want to do and asking them about those free entry points, because the barrier to entry is lower than it's ever been.
Yeah, totally. That's amazing. And I think you had such a great point. Like just buying someone a coffee is like, I don't know. The people that do this, or people that do music or film, and most art, it's like we live and breathe this. We love this, so they'll probably want to hang out I'm not saying the whole day or anything, but like buy them a coffee and hang out, buy them lunch, whatever.
Most people just want to also make friends too. So at the end of the day, get yourself in the right circle, or just surround yourself with the people that you want to surround yourself with is really the takeaway. Yeah.
Amazing. Aaron, thank you so much for joining us today. Anything you want to add? I think that's pretty much it.
No, I think that's pretty much it. Just
amazing. Yeah. Thank you so much. And thank you for listening to the Mercy Music Podcast.
Hey.